Life and death are only images. There is neither life nor death in life. Xiefeng. Translated by Qin Yu. Edited by Peter. The Mobius strip tells us that life and death are not opposites. Life is death, and death is life. There is death in life, and life in death. The Yellow Emperor's Book of the Hidden Talisman said, "Life is the root of death, and death is the root of life." Babies cry when they are born. Why do they cry? Because life is bitter. How do you know that life is bitter? This is like a chick in an egg that has been hatched for 21 days, pecking at the shell. Although it does not know how thick the eggshell is, whether it can be pecked through, or whether there is a vast world outside the eggshell, it must peck. That is its instinct. What is instinct? Instinct is a kind of innate performance that biosystems can make without learning, such as chickens and eggshells pecking at them, bees making honey, migratory birds migrating with the seasons, mice digging holes, roosters crowing, etc. Babies cry as soon as they are born, and they know how to suck a breast. This is also an instinct. Everything has an instinct. If they do not have an instinct, everything will perish. So where did the instinct come from? This involves the origin of life. Please see the chapter of life. All things on earth are created by higher life, and instincts are embedded in the structure and order of life. The purpose of this chapter is to talk about life and death. Why do we say, life is death and death is life? To understand the true meaning of life and death, we must proceed from the following 3 points. First, do people have past lives? First of all, let me reprint the full text of an article compiled by Wang Jiankong and Li Liming and published in Reader magazine. Unbelievable, Reborn Girl. In 1926, a lovely little girl was born in Delhi, India. Her name was Shani Devi. When she was just born, there was nothing abnormal about her at all. But when she was 7 years old, little Shani suddenly said to her mother inexplicably, "Mom, I used to live in the city of Mathura." She also enthusiastically told her mother about Mathura and the situation at her home then. Later, Shanti mentioned this matter several more times. The parents were very worried when they saw their 7-year-old daughter talking about something irrelevant, so they took her to see a doctor. The doctor was puzzled after hearing Shanti's narration. "It's really strange. This child has no symptoms of mental abnormalities at all. How could she say these unbelievable things? Let's observe her for a while." However, at the age of 9, Shanti still did not forget about her living in Mathura. "Mom, did I mention that I lived in Mathura before? I got married there and gave birth to 3 children. My name was Luchi when I lived in Mathura." Shanti also told her mother the names and characteristics of the 3 children. The parents became more and more anxious after listening to their daughter's intoxicated chatter, thinking that the child's condition was probably getting worse. And they often wiped away their tears in secret. One day, a visitor came to see Shanti's mother. As soon as Shanti saw that person, she suddenly called out, "Mom, this person is my former husband's cousin. He also lives in Mathura." The guest was surprised when he heard Shanti's words and said, "Your daughter is right. I used to live in Mathura." But how did she know about it? After the incident spread, it attracted the attention of the Indian government, and a special investigation committee was formed. The committee brought Shanti to Mathura for on-the-spot investigation. Shanti has never left Delhi since her birth. But as soon as she arrived in Mathura, she was able to warmly greet the local people who came to meet her in the Mathura dialect, as if she had met a long-lost friend. When she came to the door of a house, she stopped suddenly and said to others, "This is the house I used to live in." She walked in the door, pointed to an old man, and said, "He is just the father of my former husband." Then, she recognized her 2 children, and she also told people about her previous life in Mathura in detail, her association with her friends, the nearby landscape, and the school she was in at that time. The local people were very surprised when they heard her narration. What she said was completely correct, which was exactly the situation at that time. So little Shanti is the one who was reborn. The people who came to investigate this issue had to come to this conclusion. In India, the ancient Buddhist country, there are really many reborn people. Swarata Misho is one of them. One day, when he was traveling by bicycle, he pointed to a house he had never been to and said that he had lived here for a period and talked as if he just thought of it. He also talked about the past. This surprised the accompanying family members. They ran into the village to inquire, and what Svolrada said was exactly what happened here decades ago. It is said that Svolrada has been resurrected 3 times. There was also a young man in India named Gaspiel. He just died shortly. On the day a person named Yaki died in a village 35 kilometers away, Gaspier suddenly woke up in the coffin placed in his home. When people pulled him out of the coffin, to their surprise, Gaspiel knew the appearance of Yaki, who was far away in a foreign land, and all the things that happened in that village. There are many examples of past lives recorded in ancient and modern Chinese and foreign books. We can't completely believe what they say, but in the face of the facts, we can't deny everything. We can deny that the statement of Tang Monk in Journey to the West is the reincarnation of Jean Chanzi, but we cannot but believe in the theory of the reincarnated soul boy of the Tibetan Panchen Lama in Tibet. For example, Wendu Gongbao Kaidan, the reincarnated soul boy of the 9th Panchen Lama Sangdang Kyuji Nyama, was able to accurately select the utensils used by the previous Panchen Lama from other identical objects, and even more surprisingly, he was able to call out the name of Gajan Pong, who had sung for the Panchen Lama, from the crowd. Before that, the two had never met. Gongbao Kaidan was not discovered by accident. After the 9th Panchen Lama passed away, the Panchen Xingyuan, an organization dedicated to protecting the personal safety of the Panchen Lama of Tibetan Buddhism, began to search for his reincarnated soul boy. After several screenings and selections among the 17 possible reincarnated soul boys, 6 were initially identified. After many more procedures, it was finally identified that Kutinj Longgar Gyatso was the reincarnated soul boy of the 9th Panchen Lama. However, Kutinj Longgar Gyatso suddenly died of an illness. Why did he die suddenly? Because the real reincarnated soul boy was not him, but someone else. Having no choice, the Panchen Kinpo Conference Hall took the remaining 5 possible reincarnated soul boys to Kumba Monastery. They wrote the soul boys' names on papers, wrapped the papers in tsampa, kneaded the tsampa into balls, and put them into a gold bottle. After a series of prayers and other activities, they shook the gold bottle in front of the public. A pill jumped out of the gold bottle during the shaking. They opened it, and it was Wendu Gongbao Kaidan's name on it. In fact, anyone who was a human being in the last life and reincarnated as a human in the next life will definitely have a feeling of déjà vu about a place suddenly and dimly in your life. In some places, although you have never been there, once you arrive, they must be reflected in your subconsciousness. You don't know what's going on, you just feel as if you have been here before. Of course, if you were an animal in your previous life, you will not have this kind of memory, but you must have a special love for a certain animal, and you are particularly disgusted or afraid of some animals. If you were a celestial in the 1,000-year world or the 10,000-year world, you will not have this kind of hazy memory, but you will definitely hate the selfishness of human society and subconsciously feel that you don't belong to this world. If you come from the Elysium world, you don't like meat by nature. Many wonderful hallucinations often appear in your mind, and you have an instinctive closeness to Buddhism. Second, do people really have an afterlife? It's hard for us to believe the hearsay of others, but we have to believe the theories and examples based on scientific research and clinical practice. There is an organization in this world called the International Association for Near-Death Studies, whose website is www.nderf.org. The results of this research organization show that people have an afterlife. Please feel free to contact them to discuss where people go after death. As living people, it is impossible for them to clearly know the scene after death, but for those who died but came back to life due to various reasons, it is true that some of them have experienced the scene after death. I myself started to explore the essence of life because of a fact that came into being 20 years ago, that is, no matter whether people in the world believe it or not, I am sure that life has an afterlife, and because of my continuous research and exploration, I discovered my past life and future life and made clear the purpose and significance of my birth. I passed through a happy darkness and saw the bright sunshine. I felt extremely happy. I was pushed into a black hole, and my mind still maintained infinite peace. Suddenly, a ray of light appeared in front of me. It was like a star in the sky at first, and then it turned into a sun at dawn in an instant. The radiant sun does not dazzle me. On the contrary, looking at this red sun, I feel unparalleled happiness. This is a beautiful place. I am very happy to come to this place. I feel delightful. I seem to have a nightmare. Countless ghosts came to claim my life, and a black tornado also hit me. I was frightened to death, and suddenly I was pulled back by a force. I watched the doctors tossing my dead body. Relatives and friends were mourning and crying, but I drifted farther and farther away from them. I was not sad. I felt extremely peaceful and felt that there was a beautiful place in the distance, and that is where I should be. The above are the memories and narrations of people who died and came back to life. Although they did not describe what kind of place they arrived at, it is certain that they still have a clear consciousness after death, and they also feel the beauty or dreadfulness of the place they are going to. It is certain that people will have an afterlife. There are only two kinds of eternal things in the universe. One is energy and the other is life. Without life, the existence of the universe is meaningless. Without energy, life will have nothing to attach itself to. Life is eternal. The so-called death is just the transformation of the life carrier. After the body of life dies, the spiritual body of life will enter another life carrier. After a dog dies, it may be reincarnated as a human being. Then, as a dog, it died, but it was born again as a human being. That is to say, life is the root of death, and death is the root of life. Where there is no death, there is no birth. Where there is no birth, there is no death. If the life of a dog does not die, then the life of a human cannot be born. To be born in the thousand-year world, the life in the mortal world must die, and life cannot step into two rivers at the same time. So, what is the meaning of "in life there is death, in death there is life"? We know that the aging of the body is gradual and unconscious. If we take photos of the life mileage from birth to death every day, by taking out two adjacent photos and comparing them, you cannot see the difference between the two at all. However, if you compare the photos with the ones which were taken after a period of time, such as 1 month or a year, you can clearly see the difference between them. That is to say, life is dying every moment. In life there is death. So, is there life in death? Yes, there is life in death. We already know that life is eternal, and people have an afterlife. So what factors will determine our afterlife? Is becoming a cow, a pig, a human, an immortal, or a Buddha in the next life accidental or inevitable? We know that every result has an early cause. It is impossible for anyone to suddenly become a president. A desert will not suddenly become an oasis, and a tadpole will not suddenly become a frog. The change is gradual, but the result may be sudden. For a person to reincarnate as a beast in the next life, he needs to continue to do evil, to squander and waste. He needs not only to spend all the savings in his life bank, but also overspend and leave a deficit. Otherwise, he will not be able to reincarnate as a beast in his next life. In the same way, if a person wants to become a Buddha, he must consciously and voluntarily reach the point of having nothing. Not only can he not own money, fame, property, beautiful women, family, status, etc., but he must also not be obsessed with a certain concept or have disputes with common people, and of course he must not kill or eat meat. If you want to go to the thousand-year world in your next life, your humanity must be perfect. So, are there any signs that indicate what kind of reincarnation criteria a person has reached at the time of his death? Yes, that are the different structures of neurons in the central nervous system of the brain at the time of death. Different structures have different colors. If a color scanner can be invented, when a person dies, open his neurocranium and you can see the color of his brain with the scanner. If it is colorful, it can be concluded that his life has gone to the 10,000-year world. If it is purple, he has gone to the Elysium world. If it appears red or green or blue, he must have gone to the 1,000-year world. If it appears white, he will be reincarnated as a human. If it shows a faint dark color, he will enter the animal world in the next life. If it is black, he will definitely go to the netherworld, or the frozen layer, or to the inflaming layer. In short, life and death are only images. Life has neither life nor death. Just like Seth said, death is not the end of life.
物种是进化来的吗？
Did life evolve from non-life? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Let's examine the validity of the evolutionist perspective, with Darwin as their pioneer, on the origin of species. Upon rejecting the Big Bang Theory and the notion of life arising accidentally from water, and upon analyzing the theory of evolution, we realize its shaky foundation. Without the birth of life, can evolution truly exist? Where do eggs come from without chickens? And without eggs, where does the chicken come from? Like how DNA formation depends on protein formation, without initial protein presence, DNA cannot form. Which came first, protein or DNA? The core tenets of the theory of evolution are as follows. Before evolution, there must be at least one or several lives. These one or several lives have evolved into a diverse array of life forms on Earth today. Organism evolution results from heredity, variation, and natural selection. Evolution follows the logic of natural selection, survival of the fittest, the law of the jungle, selecting the superior and eliminating the inferior. When a species cannot adapt to its environment, or when the environment does not support a species' survival, it evolves into another species. Due to brutal competition and survival of the fittest, the weak are naturally eliminated, leaving behind only the strong. This implies that low-energy forms fade while high-energy forms emerge. From these aspects, we can deduce the following. Earthworms, flies, turtles, dung beetles, cobras, dogs, humans, etc., originate from the same ancestor. Due to deteriorating ecological conditions, to ensure species reproduction, some dinosaurs evolved into humans, while others became lions and wolves. Since weaker organisms are naturally eliminated, all insects are weaker than birds and will evolve into birds or more powerful animals. Similarly, herbivores, weaker than carnivores, will evolve into carnivores for species reproduction. Carnivores, weaker than humans, will undoubtedly evolve into humans for survival. The final outcome of survival of the fittest is that all insects and animals will eventually evolve into humans. Regarding humans, the strong prey on the weak and the fittest survive. People survive by plundering and killing each other. Strong nations only remain invincible by eliminating the weak. All plundering and killing wars in history align with the theory of evolution. Acts of kindness toward other species appear cruel within one's own race. Conversely, cruelty toward other species is seen as kindness within one's own race. Whether it's burning, killing, looting, or cheating, any means to eliminate the weak and strengthen oneself are justified. Hence, Hitler's actions were 100% correct. Humans will continue to evolve. Eventually, wings will grow on their backs, eyes on the back of their heads, and they will breathe out fireworks and emit laser light from their eyes. Further analysis is unnecessary. Based on the 10 outcomes mentioned above, we can assess the viability of the theory of evolution. As we observe humans becoming smarter and more capable with each generation, we assume human evolution. However, this increased capability depends entirely on accumulated knowledge, and the essence of human life has remained unchanged since ancient times. Our genes, as human beings, have not changed. Our ancestors had 2 eyes, and we still do. Our blood was red then, and it remains red now. Our body structure has not gained or lost any organs or parts compared to our ancestors. If modern children could run like deer or zebras at birth, it would confirm human evolution. If monkeys and apes' brains are similar to humans in learning, memory, and thinking, we can deduce that humans evolved from monkeys. I will delve further into the topic of biological evolution in future chapters, particularly in the Greatest Creator chapter of Life Genuine. I encourage you to continue contemplating this issue.
盲区
The Blind Zone. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. If we observe a blind person, we will find that he is constantly feeling his way forward. He cannot stride confidently on winding roads, nor can he see the potholes and stumbling stones ahead. We feel genuinely saddened by this. But what about those of us with sight? We eagerly unpack our treasures, investing everything in a marriage, only to face the painful experience of divorce a few years later. Why couldn't we foresee the outcome back then? We sincerely invest time in friendships, only to be betrayed, robbed of our savings, and even lose our spouses. Were we blind to the truth from the start? We wholeheartedly support someone's rise to power, only to discover him indifferent to our well-being and willing to trample us underfoot. Why were we blind to their true nature? We extend compassion to someone in need, sparing no effort to help him overcome one difficulty after another. However, once his wounds are healed, he turns around to bite us, not only stealing our wealth but also spreading rumors and slandering us, portraying us as worthless. Did our eyes truly perceive their nature from the outset? Parents toil tirelessly and pour their hearts into raising their children, hoping to have support in their old age. Yet, in an instant, their children die on the battlefield or under the wheel and fail to provide the expected support. Given such outcomes, how accurate was our foresight from the start? We labor tirelessly to raise our children, pouring our hearts and souls into their upbringing. Yet, in our old age, we find ourselves abandoned, without the familial support we hoped for. What was the purpose of our endeavors? Were we blind to the future? When we were at school, we studied certain subjects for getting food and sleep, but after graduation, we were unable to pursue the majors we studied. If we knew this before, why did we bother to waste money and energy? We work from dawn to dusk, live frugally, rack our brains, and work hard all our lives. When we are about to die, think about what we have gained. What were we blindly busying for? We can't see the substances with wavelengths outside the light range of 400 to 700 nanometers. We can't see the epidemic germs flying in the air. We can't see the radioactive elements invading our nerve cells, and we can't see viral bacteria filled in the rivers. The welfare of the public is lost virtually. We also turn a blind eye. What will happen tomorrow? Our eyes are also invisible. How far and how deep can our eyes see? What on earth did we see? How different are we from the blind? The achievement of a general cost many lives. One family becomes rich and another 10,000 will be, relatively, poor. The predecessors are brilliant and the descendants will be bleak. In this life, behave like a tyrant. In the next life, one will suffer. What do we really understand? What did you see again? We are so busy every day. What on earth are we busy for? We are running with high spirits on the seemingly straight road. Is this road the best way of life? What is the point of what we are passionate about? We are working overtime to build a house somewhere, yet an earthquake is imminent in this area. So, the more we do, the greater our loss. And the more we hurry up, the more we waste, isn't it? We were sweating profusely and anxiously queued up to buy tickets for the maiden voyage of the Titanic. The day when you got the ticket, was it the day when the tragedy started? A few years ago, one night, I was driving a four-wheel drive Toyota pickup truck on a jungle path in Binka, Zimbabwe, when a rabbit jumped out onto the path and attempted to cross. I slammed on the brakes, but it was too late. The rabbit was crushed to death under the wheel. Oh, rabbit, why do you hurry across the road? If you slowed down for a few seconds, you could pass safely. Does speed really make you safer? Recently, while typing with the window open in the study room of Villa number 46, at night, a few bees would often fly in to look for light. By the next day, all these bees would be found dead. Oh, bees, why do you seek out the light instead of staying in the darkness of the night? Is any bright place a good place? How many tragedies in the world happen in haste? How many joys of life are ruined in the pursuit of brightness? People, where are we going in such a hurry? There was a farmer who heard that there was gold far away. So he sold his property and went to a distant place to pan for gold. A few years later, he returned to his hometown empty-handed. Upon returning to his hometown, the first news he heard filled him with regret. The news is that the man who bought his property dug up a lot of gold on the land he sold. Everyone finds themselves in a blind zone, and it appears that we are navigating blindly. It appears that there are few individuals, both in ancient and modern times, from China and abroad, who can clearly guide us toward a path to happiness. The scriptures of major religions are profoundly deep, and we have yet to grasp their true meanings. How much farther must we tread within this blind zone?
野生动物为什么不培养自己的医生？
Why do wild animals not cultivate their own doctors? Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. Humans meticulously care for themselves, always fretting over and preparing for unforeseen future events, being precautious and preventative. Contemplating the future and taking precautions isn't inherently wrong, But the question remains, are we devoting too much time, energy, and resources to the future? By excessively fixating on the future, are we neglecting our present? Today, people seem to form friendships mainly for utilitarian purposes, rather than fostering genuine connections as our ancestors did, where hearts were in sync. At home, rely on parents. Outside, rely on friends. But why do we rely? We cloak our true intentions, compromising and pandering to friends, just to safeguard against unforeseeable future events, leaning on them, correct? Despite forced smiles, reluctant engagements, and considerable reluctance, we still go out of our way to garner support for others. Are we still being true to ourselves? How much of our time is squandered on fruitless pursuits? Why do we engage in this behavior? Is it all in anticipation of the unforeseeable future? We install security doors, set up alarms, erect fences, hang electric wires, manufacture weapons, construct hospitals, and purchase insurance. As humanity progresses, it appears the less secure we feel. Why is this? Will there come a day when everyone must wear bulletproof vests and dwell in heavily fortified underground bunkers? Is this truly the path of human advancement? Birds and wild animals do not have doctors or hospitals. Does that mean they cannot survive? The day before yesterday, I visited the Marandra Wildlife Sanctuary for observation. A large elephant mingled among a group of water buffaloes. According to the park staff, this elephant has been alive for nearly 30 years. It struck me. This elephant has lived for 30 years without ever seeing a doctor or receiving treatment from a hospital. How did it weather the storms and extreme weather conditions over these 30 years? Among humans, who among the 30-year-olds has never visited a hospital or seen a doctor? Can one not survive without doctors and hospitals? I'm not suggesting that having doctors and hospitals is detrimental. The extension of human lifespan partly hinges on the advancement of medical services. The question remains, why don't birds and wild animals have their own doctors and hospitals? Are they not living freely and happily? In the courtyard of the villa where I reside, the vegetation flourishes. Every day around 4:30 in the morning, birds chirp in unison, and around 5 o'clock, when I open the window, I can observe a dozen or more species of birds merrily chirping and catching insects. They appear so carefree and liberated, utterly unconcerned about world affairs, currency fluctuations, the Iraq crisis, or the Asian financial turmoil. I wonder, should humans take a cue from birds? If we eschew reliance on anything and nothing can be depended upon, if we refrain from worrying excessively about the future, will we live more freely? Let what comes, come, and let what goes, go. Wouldn't life be simpler?
思维误区
Misconceptions in thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Chinyo. Failure is the mother of success. Is it really so? The original intention of this argument is to encourage people not to be discouraged by failure, but to learn from it in order to achieve success. It seems that the great inventor Edison once said, "Who says I failed? I already know 9,900 ways that won't work." From this, people mistakenly believe that Edison's success is entirely due to failure, thus failure is the mother of success. In fact, Edison's success is entirely based on his repeated successes. Without the multiple successes in the early stage and the confidence gained from other successes, he would undoubtedly fail. The truth is, from the perspective of probability theory, success breeds success and failure breeds failure. Successful people will continue to succeed, while failures will continue to fail. Individual or minority examples are not sufficient to establish a theorem. True lovers eventually become a couple. Is it true? This idea seems to tell us that all married couples in the world are loving and affectionate lovers. Let's ask ourselves honestly, have you and your loved one become a married couple? The fact is it is difficult for lovers to become married. If lovers do become married, the outcome is often the drowning of affection. Live and work in peace and contentment. Is it possible? Without a job, how can one live in peace? Would pies fall from the sky? It should be only by enjoying work can one live in peace. In today's world, many young people start their careers first and then start a family, which is correct. Safe and sound. Half right. Being safe leads to being sound, but being sound leads to being safe. Steel is refined through 100 trials. Try it. After 100 attempts, will it become steel or gas? Ever-changing. Yes, without rules to follow. Acting without rules, indeed it is ever-changing. Wisdom comes from experience. Must we experience everything to gain wisdom? Time flies, life is short. If we cannot cleverly make use of things, if we cannot learn from others' experiences and lessons and apply them to different situations to gain wisdom, and instead insist on trying everything by ourselves, isn't that foolish? The only way to catch tiger cubs is to go into the tiger's den. How many spy satellites are hovering over us, observing our every move? With interconnected computers, the world situation can be observed in an instant. In this era, do we still need to risk our lives to catch tiger cubs in their dens? Truth lies in the coffin. Don't expect to find truth just by closing the coffin. People will review history from thousands of years ago for comments. We should still follow Tao and not care about the content of the eulogy when we die. Associate with the wise and you become wise. Associate with the foolish and you become foolish. Nuns think about having a drink in the lively place, and prostitutes want to get away early and cultivate virtue. There are many corrupt officials among the emperor's followers, and there is justice among the gangsters. Who says, associate with the wise and you become wise. Associate with the foolish and you become foolish? A newborn calf is not afraid of tigers. The opposite is, a newborn tiger is most afraid of cows. The viewer sees better than those involved. The truth is, those involved see better, while the viewer is confused. He who has the truth on his side has the majority. Aside from negative cosmic energy, the rest seems to be, the strong have more help, the weak have less help. A dog relies on its master's power. Similarly, people rely on the power of dogs. A bosom friend afar brings a distant land near. Without anyone recognizing oneself, one's neighbor is as distant as the ends of the earth. Once called, it comes. Once waved, it goes. It comes when called, but it's hard to make it go when waved. The strong wind reveals the sturdy grass. Sturdy grass recognizes the strong wind. Do not do unto others what you do not want done to yourself. What you do not want done to yourself, you easily do unto others. Listen to both sides and you will be enlightened. Heed only one side and you will be benighted. Heeding only one side leads to darkness, and listening to both sides also leads to darkness. If you want something, you must give something in return. If you give something, it's definitely in order to get something back. Exhaust oneself in service and only rest in death. Exhaust oneself in service merely for the sake of reputation. A long road tests the strength of a horse. Time reveals a person's heart. Carrying a heavy load tests the strength of a horse, and money reveals a person's heart. Better to be a shattered jade than an intact tile. Better to be an intact tile than a shattered jade. If the skin is gone, what can the hair attach to? If the hair is gone, where can the skin hide? A broken mirror can be put together again. It's hard to mend a broken mirror. People fear fame as pigs fear fattening. People want fame as pigs want to grow fat. Youth is wasted on the young. Workers don't work hard, and bosses suffer. He who sees the trend is a wise man. He who sees the trend is a smooth talker. If one separates himself from physical labor, he cannot differentiate between the 5 grains. If one separates himself from physical labor, there will be an abundant harvest of the 5 grains. The whole year's work depends on a good start in spring. The whole year's work depends on a good start in winter. All crows are black. All crows are not as black. To spin a cocoon and trap oneself in it. To spin a cocoon for self-defense. Of the 36 strategies, running away is the best. Of the 36 strategies, intangibility is the best. 3 shoemakers surpass Zhuge Liang. 3 shoemakers are still shoemakers. Traveling 1,000 miles is better than 10 years of reading. 1 year of reading is better than traveling 1,000 miles. If you don't listen to the old man, suffering is in front of you. If you only listen to the old man, suffering lies ahead.
颠倒思维
Reverse thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. Not having is having is not having. Up is down is up. Success is failure and failure is success. Gain is loss is gain. You are me and I am you. Humans are Buddhas, and Buddhas are humans. People are ghosts, and ghosts are people. Humans are demons, and demons are humans. Life is death, and death is life. Moving forward is moving backward, and moving backward is moving forward. Destruction is construction, and construction is destruction. Being intelligent is being foolish, and being foolish is being intelligent. Science is a form of superstition, and superstition is a form of science. Politics involves governing people, and governing people involves politics. Workers are laborers, and cadres do nothing. Disorder is order, and order is disorder. A child is an old person, and an old person is a child. The infinitely large tends towards the infinitely small, and the infinitely small tends towards the infinitely large. The darker the place, the brighter it seems, yet the brighter it appears, the darker it becomes. The slower, the faster, and the faster, the slower. The richer one is, the more distressed one becomes, and the more powerful one is, the more dangerous one becomes. The kinder you are, the more foolish you may seem, yet the more foolish you appear, the wiser you may be. The poorer one is, the less trustworthy one is perceived, and the richer one is, the greedier one becomes. The more useless something seems, the more useful it may be, and the less one possesses, the freer one may be. The more enticing something appears, the more it may consume one's life, and the more delectable something seems, the more it may harm one's health. The more one has, the more one will gain, and the less one has, the less one will be bestowed. Looking at people from afar, they appear beautiful, but up close, they seem ugly. Similarly, pigs appear hateful from a distance, yet charming up close. The nourishment for humans is not food, but the different molecular structures of energy, qi, within food. If one consumes this energy directly, they may bypass the need for food altogether. When God created humans, humans began creating gods. When humans raise cows, cows start to raise humans. When humans invent computers, computers will eventually invent humans. Because we have eyes, we don't see what we should see, but we see what we shouldn't see. Because we have mouths, we don't eat what we should eat, but we eat what we shouldn't eat. Those who achieve success early often decline early. Early intelligence can lead to early confusion. Early sorrow can turn into early joy, and early happiness can turn into early sorrow. Those who rise early tend to sleep early, and those who sleep early often rise late. The more one loses, the more one gains. Conversely, the more one gains, the more one loses. In having nothing to lose, one has nothing to gain, yet in losing everything, one gains everything. The ultimate objective of life is not to approach death, but to journey towards another world. Much like the ultimate aim of a fetus is not to grow within the womb, but to enter the world. Thus, human society acts as a grand womb, through which individuals must pass, seemingly through the gateway of death, to reach another world. Consequently, death is not the end, but rather the beginning. The you in dreams is not your true self. The true self slumbers in the real world. Similarly, the you in the present is not the true self. The true self is sleeping in another world. The dream, you, is unaware that your real self is slumbering in the real world, just as the present you is unaware that the true self sleeps in another world. Upon awakening, the dream ends. When the true self awakens in another world, life concludes. If one dies suddenly, it is because the true self in another world did not awaken naturally but was abruptly awoken by others. Thus, regardless of age or manner, death is not an inherently negative event, and the living need not sorrow but should rejoice in their timely cessation of illusion. From the perspective of conventional thinking, the sun unquestionably revolves around the earth, as observed rising from mountains, water, and the horizon, and setting on the opposite side at dusk. The ancient text, Shan Hai Jing, contains a fable titled Quafu Chasing the Sun, wherein the protagonist Quafu perishes due to his adherence to conventional thinking. Similarly, Copernicus was burned alive for expressing a treasonous and heretical notion. The Earth revolves around the Sun, rather than the Sun around the Earth. Consequently, conventional thinking is often the folly of fools. We frequently refer to sea level, yet it is not a level surface but rather a curved one. When traveling by Boeing 747 from Johannesburg to Hong Kong via Bangkok, the altitude of the plane remains relatively constant, leading us to assume it flies straight and parallel. However, the flight path is not linear but rather curved. You take a globe, imagine yourself standing in Oslo, Norway, and then picture the people in Cape Town, South Africa. Can you tell me who is on top, who is on the bottom? If you consider yourself on top, then the people in Cape Town would be below. Since they are below, and everyone's feet are planted on the earth, it is without doubt that the people in Cape Town live with their heads facing down. However, when you visit Cape Town, you find that people are heads up, making it seem like the people in Oslo are the ones with their heads down. Thus, our conception of up and down may be erroneous. Though we claim airplanes soar in the sky, changing spatial perspectives reveals they travel beneath the earth. Extending from the spatial positions of up and down to the abstract concepts of high and low, we often say, the greater the hardships endured, the more esteemed the person, man struggles upwards, water flows downwards. This erroneous perception of hierarchy makes people forget the meaning of life, trapped in the quagmire of upward ascent since childhood, unable to extricate themselves. By the time old age approaches, they still don't understand, remaining confused, thus muddling their once very beautiful lives. The more energetic a person is, the more susceptible they are to straying from the path, and the smarter and more talented a person is, the easier it is for them to become ensnared in the mundane. Conversely, those who are frequently ill, seemingly hopeless, are more likely to grasp the truth. This is reflected in the Taoist saying, illness breeds Tao in the mind, and the reason lies therein. Let's look at time again. We say, today is March 3rd, 2004, and 10 years from today will be March 3rd, 2014. Upon waking in the morning, we glance at the clock and exclaim, ah, it's already 7 o'clock. When conversing with friends, one might remark, time flies so quickly. I'm almost 40 years old. We feel as though we're swimming in the vast ocean of time. Life is fleeting, and the years are unforgiving. The older one gets, the more prone they are to sighs and regrets. The sunset is infinitely good, but it's almost dusk. Knowing today, why regret yesterday? Time, like a demon or cancer cell, consumes people's happiness, hope, and lives. But let me ask you, where does time come from? Does time truly exist in the universe? Is time really so precious? You may find yourself perplexed. If I were to tell you, time is a construct of humanity, it doesn't truly exist in the universe, and time isn't inherently valuable, you might find it puzzling. If I were to further assert, you've created time as this specter, this illusion, to intimidate and torment yourself, you might begin to question my sanity. Delving deeper, have you ever dreamt of deceased loved ones? The relatives you see in your dreams aren't truly dead. They've merely transitioned to a different realm of existence or shifted to another space. Would you then consider me delusional, spouting nonsense? The truth is, if you were to think so, you'd be correct, indicating your normalcy, practicality, and rationality, but lacking the concept of unconventional thinking. 3 meals a day are considered essential. The diet should be varied. Otherwise, malnutrition may ensue. This is conventional wisdom. If you firmly believe it to be an absolute truth, then indeed it is. You become accustomed to 3 meals a day. Should you miss one, you'll feel hunger and uneasy. If you believe 2 meals a day suffice, then indeed they do. If one day you were to consume an extra meal, you'd experience stomach discomfort. If you believe 1 meal a day is adequate, then it is. Regarding food, if you subscribe to the theories of nutritionists, you'll include chicken, duck, fish, various fruits, vegetables, etc. in your diet. If you adopt a diet that is too simplistic, it will result in your physical and mental emaciation, accompanied by fatigue. But if you reject the conventional nutritionist's approach, believing that consuming only 1 egg and a glass of milk per day provides ample energy, then indeed it does. Furthermore, if you firmly believe that subsisting on a spoonful of honey, an apple, and an adequate amount of spring water per day is sufficient, then it is. Should you believe that abstaining from food and drink altogether, existing as your own cosmic entity, allows for longevity, then you've grasped the mechanics of animal hibernation, attaining the wisdom of Bodhidharma. Expanding upon this, should you experience faint stomach pains one day, subsequently suspecting stomach cancer and thinking daily, "Oh no, I have stomach cancer," within 3 months, a medical examination confirms your fears. Conversely, after an examination reveals lung cancer, should you firmly assert, "This cannot be lung cancer. My lungs are perfectly healthy, and there's no way I could have lung cancer," 3 months later, the lung cancer dissipates. The key lies in the power of the mind. It only works when one believes sincerely. With sincerity, one can split gold. "I'm old. I'm no longer capable. I'm already 40. What else can I do? This life is what it is. If there's an afterlife, I must. I'm already 80. This illness cannot be cured. This is impossible. This is too fantastical." These sentiments, born of conventional thinking, lead one down a path of negativity, a suicidal mindset, a misconception of human nature, a spreading virus. Some may argue, "I'm already in my 70s, nearing the end. Even if I were to break free from conventional thinking, what good would it do?" Let me tell you, every day of a person's life, every age, marks both an end and a new beginning. Each day heralds the birth of a new self. People can live not only to 100, but even 200 years. The reason for disbelief lies in the millennia of conventional thinking constraining minds and thoughts, coupled with the misleading notions of shallow science, claiming a pituitary gland at the back of the brain secretes a fluid controlling lifespan and asserting that humans undergo only 7-cell divisions from birth to death. These are all negative inductions. Be practical and realistic. Don't aim too high. Human lives rarely exceed 70. You're almost 80. Be content. Do you really believe in a second youth? The next time someone dares to preach such wisdom, tell them to take their ignorant babble elsewhere. An elephant can be tied to a stake with only a thin rope. A farmer can be tied to the ground with only a bit of land. A worker can be tied to a workshop with only a few sets of tools and a workplace. An intellectual can be tied to a job with only a few hundred yuan salary in the hope of being promoted. A businessman can be tied to a business field with only a little profit. A follower of a religion can be bound within a certain religion by a scripture, and an official can be tied to a post with only one position. The moral creed of children whose parents are still alive should not travel too far away from their parents has tied a high school outstanding classmate of mine near his home forever. The absurd causal preaching of "there are 3 forms of unfilial conducts, having no male heir is the gravest of the 3, has made countless respectable people suffer from inner torment forever. For their parents, for relatives and friends, for children, for traditional virtues, for reputation, countless men and women who do not love each other silently endure and live together for a lifetime. Everyone is more or less tied by invisible ropes, and everyone's mind is covered by an invisible net of thinking. Everyone is carrying a heavy cross, but they can't feel it, or they can feel it but do not have the strength and courage to break through the fetters. Seeing that the people around them are living like this, they feel at ease, get used to it, become numb, so they bear it. Someone asked me, "It's easy for an elephant tied by a string to break free, but where will it go if it breaks free?" Yes, if you break free, where can you go? With no fodder, no jobs, no wages, no position, and even no housing and the surrounding relationships, how can one survive? There was a group of swans. Every autumn, they flew over thousands of mountains and rivers in a group, singing songs all the way, admiring the green mountains and blue waters under their wings, and going to the far south to open up new living areas. A few of them were captured and fed by humans. They grew fatter and fatter, having no worry about food and drink, and carefree. Even in the cold wind and snow, there was a shelter protecting them from the wind. As time went by, they got used to the food given by the master and got used to the joy with the chickens, ducks, pigs, and dogs. Their brothers and sisters flew back the next year, and they met with a burst of kisses and hubbub. Autumn was here again, and the brothers and sisters came to encourage them to fly to the warm south together, But they advised their brothers and sisters in turn, "Stay here, there is food, drink, and housing here. Why bother to fly back and forth every year? Besides, the place you fly to may not necessarily be lush with water and grass. Even if the food is abundant, you have to find food yourself. How can it compare to us here having food and drink and being free and easy?" The brothers and sisters shook their heads in puzzlement. One by one, they spread their wings and flew away. In the third year, spring had come, and the flowers were in bloom. The brothers and sisters flew back again with singing, but except for two nephews and nieces, their original brothers and sisters were nowhere to be seen. They asked their dirty nephew, "Where did your uncles and aunts go?" The lame niece rushed to cry. A few uncles were killed by the master to entertain guests. Other uncles were killed by the mistress, saying that she wanted to nourish her body, and the aunts were taken away by relatives and friends of the family. Don't know whether they are still alive. When I was grabbing food with the puppy, my leg was bitten by the mother dog. What should my brother and I do now?" As she spoke, she squatted on the ground in despair. All the swans came around at once, stroked and comforted with their white wings. "Children, don't cry. We will take you out of here this autumn." "Where can we go?" asked the poor nephew. Long-term habits have formed a fixed thinking. Once the thinking is fixed, it is difficult to break through. Let's look at another phenomenon. The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes, regardless of the wind or rain. They go to the big tree or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! The wholly devoted state of Africans praying for blessings. Groups and groups of Africans on the African land are all dressed in white clothes, regardless of the wind or rain. They go to the big tree or kneel on the grass to repent and pray. What kind and honest people! I respect these kind-hearted people and hope that all people will go to mosques, Buddhist temples, Taoist temples, churches, and kingdom halls to participate in activities and listen to teachings. I bring this up just to talk about the problem of thinking. All religions have their own rituals and forms, and they have fixed activities every day, every month, and every year. What I want to ask is, can these rituals, forms, and activities alone enable you to be liberated, reborn in heaven, in the Elysium world, or the Millennium world? I have no objection to your beliefs. The problem is that you must figure out what you believe in and whether its past and future are clear. If you don't know, will all your efforts be in vain, and will you go astray? Just take Buddhism as an example. Shakyamuni Buddha said in the Diamond Sutra, "Those who see me in form and seek me in sound are treading the heterodox path and cannot perceive Tathagata." What is form? Form refers to material forms, things that can be seen and touched. Then, is paying homage to Buddha statues, burning incense and kowtowing and praying in accordance with the teachings of Buddha? If a physical body goes all the way to a temple to worship a physical statue, does the behavior itself violate the teachings of the Buddha? Is it already on the heterodox path? Everyone who worships the Buddha statue, I want to ask you, where is the Buddha? Is the Buddha in the temple? If you don't have Buddha in your heart, even if you travel all over the world, you can't find Buddha. If you have Buddha in your heart, there are Buddhas everywhere. If you really want to worship Buddha, you must keep in mind the teachings of Buddha. First, worship Buddha in your heart and learn from Buddha in speech and behavior. Only in this way can you understand the principles of Buddhism, perceive the nature of Buddha, and finally become a Buddha. Worship that emphasizes form but ignores content is a kind of blasphemy against gods and Buddhas. Rituals and forms are a kind of restraint, a kind of pretense, just to strengthen people's beliefs, and a means and process of dissemination. Whether you attain Tao depends entirely on your own psychology and actions. If you don't have it in your heart, it is useless, and not even if you burn incense and kowtow every day. Go to temples and Taoist churches to worship statues of gods every day. If you have it in your heart, even if you have never been to a temple or church, you can become a loyal disciple of gods and Buddhas. Due to the limitation of conventional thinking, most people think that gods and Buddhas are in temples, Taoist temples, and churches, or in some places that are indefinable. They believe that as long as they participate in religious activities and hold ceremonies, they can get the blessings of gods and Buddhas, and their merits and virtues are fulfilled, and they will attain the state of spiritual immortality. It is actually very wrong. In fact, gods and Buddhas are one with humans, and gods and Buddhas are on us, and gods and Buddhas cannot be deceived. Everyone has divinity and Buddha nature and interacts with the gods and Buddhas in other dimensions. Whether we can go to the space of gods and Buddhas after death is entirely determined by the response information waves we send out from our body and the intensity of the visible light colors which we have but cannot be seen and distinguished by the naked eye. Just like a networked computer, the program has been determined, and it all depends on how you apply it. It is impossible to get away with it if you want to be opportunistic. The great world seems chaotic, complicated, unpredictable, and elusive, but it is actually very simple. Our every word, deed, every action, every thought is recorded on our body without omission. Even in the pitch-dark night, one does things secretly, thinking that the gods do not know it, and the ghosts do not notice it. In fact, the information waves and light emitted from us have changed and have been clearly revealed. Divine punishments, though slow, are always sure, with big meshes yet letting nothing slip through. Who can you fool?
思维的威力。
The Power of Thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. Let me begin with an example. In the 5th issue of Reader in 1997, there was a short article with the following content. One day, during a casual conversation, Zhang Jindua asked Liu Jimin, "Do you know how one can die the most peaceful death?" Jimin was at a loss for words. Jindua remarked, "The best way for someone to die is by falling from an airplane. It's the most peaceful death." Ironically, on October 17, 1958, while leading a cultural delegation to Afghanistan, Jindua's plane crashed, and he passed away at the age of 61. You must have recognized the power of thinking. Zhang Jindua's death from falling out of an airplane was not accidental, but rather a result of his thinking. There are numerous such instances. You can explore them on your own. Thinking is a form of non-material that communicates with negative cosmic energy. The path ahead of us is not determined by our actions, but rather controlled by our thinking. Whether positive or negative, once our thinking is set, the energy of the negative universe will fully align to achieve our goals. I'd rather not delve deeper into this, to prevent others from mastering its laws and causing harm to others. Let me offer a few unique examples for you to ponder or experiment with. Take a piece of paper the size of a bank check and firmly believe in your mind that it's a flawless bank check with the exact amount written on it. Head to the bank to cash it, and the teller will surely comply. However, any trace of doubt in your mind will lead to failure. Lock yourself in a room with closed doors and windows and practice how to exit it. If you eliminate the presence of tangible objects like walls and doors from your thinking, you can easily leave. But if even a slight doubt exists, you'll inevitably hit a wall. Those who can walk on water don't perceive it as such beneath their feet. If you start to panic or doubt the water's ability to support you while walking on it, you'll sink immediately. Attempt to infiltrate a heavily guarded location. By envisioning yourself as invisible in your mind, you can confidently enter and exit. However, the slightest fear will immediately alert the guards. Stand atop a high-rise building or a cliff's edge and imagine flying to another high point without any tools. Conventional thinking deems it impossible and reckless, yet unconventional thinkers can achieve it. By conventional standards, the aforementioned scenarios are mere fantasies and delusions. If you hold this view, it indicates your normalcy, rationality, and scientific mindset. Finding them intriguing suggests you possess the capacity for unconventional thinking. Recognizing the superficiality of our understanding of the material world implies that such feats are entirely plausible, signifying a departure from conventional thinking. Further development will unveil more mysteries of the universe. Thinking is one of the most potent energies in the cosmos. Those who master it wield boundless power and can invisibly influence life and death. Mastery depends on our self-cultivation, while accessing higher realms hinges on our self-improvement. Here, what I want to declare is, when it comes to unusual endeavors, start with the small steps. Don't rush to summon winds and call forth rain or command the wind and clouds right from the start. As your self-cultivation improves, many things will naturally come to fruition. If you're eager for success and attempt to achieve it overnight, pushing hard before it's time, you do so at your own risk. The path to attaining great power is deceptively simple. Once hinted at, it becomes clear. With heightened spiritual power, compassion becomes paramount. Avoid arrogance, complacency, or actions that may harm others. If you stray onto a darker path, don't blame me when regret sets in too late. Should you ever ascend to higher realms, remember the origins of your unconventional thinking in your heart, so as not to violate the rules of heaven and end up like water without a source or a tree without roots.
我反常思维的契机及过程。
The origin and process of my unconventional thinking. Xiefeng. Translation edited by Qinyo. To explain the origins of my unconventional thinking and to provide insight into the scientific approach to unconventional thinking, let me briefly outline the process through which I began to think unconventionally. The first person to recognize my unconventional thinking was my wife. She always said I was peculiar, different from others, and later she even labeled me as a monster. Because of this, we often couldn't reach a consensus on many family matters due to our different ways of thinking. But because I insisted on my own views and was unwilling to change my mindset, she had no choice. I said to her, "You may be right, but give me a chance. As long as you do as I say, our lives will undergo a significant change every 5 years. If there's no major change in the first 5 years, I'll always listen to you." Of course, practice proved that my thinking conforms to objective laws. In fact, in my opinion, normality is abnormal, and abnormality is normal. The thinking of ordinary people is confused by dazzling surface phenomena, focusing only on immediate interests and the present time and space, without understanding what emptiness is, what reality is, what existence is, and what non-existence is, so they cannot understand unconventional thinking. Some people are purely blinded by their own arrogance, selfishness, and jealousy. Their conventional thinking confines their minds. Some people are blocked from wisdom by inferiority, poverty, stubbornness, illness, and prejudice. In my view, the vast majority of people are covered by layers of nets and can never break free without external force. Some may ask, "Am I not doing fine? Where should I break free from? Aren't you just like me, living on the earth?" Indeed, I am just like you, living on this earth. The difference is that I know why I'm alive, while you are living in confusion. When I die, I know where I'm going, while you may end up in hell. Now, let's get back to the point. In the first issue of the Reader's Digest in Gansu, China, in 1987, there was a question in a reader survey. "What are your hobbies?" My answer was, self-anesthesia. This statement appeared in another issue under the Report on the Reader's Survey Form section, with a comment. A reader pessimistically wrote, "Self-anesthesia?" He made very pertinent comments on our publication while sharply criticizing certain social phenomena. He did not sign his name. Self-anesthesia is probably just self-deprecation. He is actively contemplating and feeling the responsibility on his shoulders. Why did I choose self-anesthesia? Because I found that this world is upside down. People live upside down, and everything they see is inverted. The opportunity that triggered such thinking for me was in 1982 when I was generating electricity in the Chilean mountains at an altitude of nearly 4,000 meters. I had altitude sickness, with my heart beating 120 times per minute. I often had headaches, felt weak all over, and had to stop and catch my breath after walking a few steps. I choked while eating, and 2 months later, my nails started to indent. I raised my difficulties to the leadership, hoping to be transferred to the temporary workshop below the mountain. At that time, Dr. Lee, who later committed suicide, from the team also helped me plead with the leadership, but the answer I got was, "This is the arrangement of the organization, and the revolutionary work needs it. Other places are already full, and you only have this position." At that time, the leader who had previously worked as a laborer and later became a political instructor stabbed me, saying, "You have no sense to appreciate favors." Helpless, I thought of running away, but to my surprise, all the drivers entering the mountain didn't let me hitchhike. It turned out that there was a rule that drivers were not allowed to take people out of the mountain without the permission of the leadership. I thought about walking out, but it was not easy. Trucks from Yumen City, where Iron Man, Wang Jinsi had worked, would take nearly 7 hours of bumpy driving to reach our work site. Along the way, except for occasional tints of Tibetan herdsmen, there were almost no signs of human habitation. Could I walk out? I realized that I must have incurred this ordeal because I had offended the brigade leader. Understanding this, I felt relieved. My first thought at the time was, to save myself? I thought, if grass can grow on the mountain, it must have the ability to withstand the cold. So, I began to look for edible grass. Fortunately, there was a wild onion on the mountain that looked like garlic and tasted like onions. I started to eat it in large quantities, firmly believing that eating this onion would relieve my altitude sickness. Whether it was a psychological effect or the effect of wild onions, I gradually adapted physiologically. Once I found that my life was no longer in danger, I felt that the world was vast. Apart from the time for sleep each day, I remained silent and reserved, no longer seeking approval from others. I concentrated all my time on sitting on the top of the mountain, starting a few months of intense contemplation of life from the simple and practical slogan, organization arrangement, revolutionary work needs, commonly used by leaders. Although I didn't realize the true meaning of life at that time, I already knew many mysteries of life. The mystery is to look at the world and life in reverse, using reverse thinking to understand the connotations and extensions of things and phenomena. For example, organization arrangement, revolutionary work needs can be understood as personal arrangement, leadership needs. Labor is most glorious is interpreted as being an official is most glorious. Model worker is seen as ignorant model. 3 goods becomes 3 bads. Advanced individual transforms into brainless individual. Moving closer to the organization signifies moving closer to the leadership. Revolution equates to deprivation. Obeying the organization's arrangement implies suppressing one's own personality. Reactionary individual may represent thoughtful individual. Good comrade might signify someone who doesn't adhere to principles. And mischievous person could indicate someone with some talent, and so on. Outwardly, I went with the flow, following nature, trying to maintain harmony with people and leaders as much as possible. Sometimes, I also showed off and competed for excellence or the 3 goods, but inwardly, I didn't care about the people and things around me at all. But all this couldn't be discussed with people. Everyone was busy chasing colorful bubbles, and they didn't understand what I was talking about. I thought it was better to self-anesthetize first. 4 years before going abroad, when I was still a middle school teacher, Mr. Li Zhengrui, the director of the Lanzhou Information Office, asked me to contract his office. I wrote to him, telling him that I wanted to go abroad first, because my thoughts at the time were out of sync with the times and the surrounding environment, and I was afraid of becoming a frog at the bottom of the well. I could only leave my homeland, go to a foreign country, and breathe different air to verify the correctness and universality of my thinking. Today, my ability to write Life Genuine abroad is the result of unconventional thinking. Some may perceive it as mere good fortune, but in truth, it was a deliberate plan on my part. However, don't mistake it for scheming. I'm simply employing unconventional thinking and the principle of non-action, Wu Wei. Who can predict what will happen to themselves 4 or 5 years from now? Probably 90% of people can't do it. After descending the mountain, I set aside orthodox works like Marxist-Leninist writings and Mao Zedong's selected works, and instead delved into the thoughts of Sakyamuni and Laozi to experience their thinking. Then I studied the I Ching, Book of Changes, Bagua, 8 Trigrams, Chimen Duanjia, the art of becoming invisible Taoist magic, palmistry, chiromancy, astrology, feng shui, 8 characters divination, solar term picking, yin and yang 5 elements, name mysteries, Huangdi Neijing, Yellow Emperor's inner canon, and basic traditional Chinese medicine, among others, which are considered by some to be superstitious or unorthodox. I also scrutinized Maslow's hierarchy of needs theory, Freud's psychoanalytic theory, and Nietzsche's philosophy of the Übermensch. None of the above fully answered my questions. After that, I worked as a translator, a truck driver, a salesperson, a street vendor, a shopkeeper, a nightclub manager, a restaurant owner, a fast food operator, and a bartender in a foreign country, using real-life experiences to verify my insights and experience the ups and downs of life. Apart to my experiences abroad, I worked as a farmer, a construction worker, a cargo handler, a clerk, an accountant, a party branch secretary, a cultural propaganda team instructor in a commune, a fitter, a welder, a car mechanic, an electrician, a high school teacher, a department clerk in an office, and an office director after going into business. In my childhood, I herded sheep for several years. I picked wild vegetables and cleaned up dung. I scavenged for scrap and sold fruit in a county town. I visited villages and households to sell vinegar. Additionally, I caught pigeons and smashed bird nests. I raised squirrels and used a bamboo basket to catch fish by the Yellow River. Furthermore, I picked wild vegetables and flowers in the mountains for cooking. I participated in various forms of gambling, including Five Dragons, 10 and a half, coin flipping, dice throwing, drawing the nine tiles, mahjong, blackjack, and roulette. I also smoked, drank, to the point of causing stomach bleeding, and used opium for pain relief. I started dating at the age of 13 and was publicly criticized and warned by the school principal at a school-wide assembly, ridiculed, mocked by classmates, almost dropped out of school, and served as a Red Guard platoon leader during the Cultural Revolution, where I was beaten, resulting in a nosebleed, betrayed by colleagues, deceived by respected individuals, and cheated and extorted by international criminal organization. In 1960, I almost starved to death, nearly drowned while swimming in the Yellow River, almost got bitten to death by a snake on the mountains of Bandura district in Zimbabwe, and narrowly avoided rolling down a hill in Mutare district in Zimbabwe due to a car accident. The highest-ranking person I ever came into contact with was Prime Minister Zhu Rongji. Our interaction was limited to a handshake, and he simply said, "Hello," to which I replied, "Hello," and that was it. Next was the Minister of Posts and Telecommunications of Zimbabwe, who also served as the chairman of an international organization. I rented his villa for 3 years. During my time abroad, I worked with an American, 2 Botswana nationals, several Zimbabweans for over 6 months, and had extensive business dealings with many Indians, Pakistanis, and a few South Koreans, British, and Portuguese. I spent a considerable amount of time studying, chatting, dining, and going on outings with British and Portuguese individuals. I also established a good friendship with a Brazilian family in Mozambique. The least privileged people I encountered were the blacks living in the remote Panka area of Zimbabwe, where I stayed for over 2 months and gained a deep understanding of poverty, destitution, kindness, friendliness, and optimism. My education primarily consisted of 3 years of study at Zhangjiago Geological Technical School after graduating from high school, where I learned mechanical drawing, engineering mechanics, metallurgy, drilling, and the repair and installation of various machine tools. I later studied Chinese literature at Lanzhou Education College, where I memorized the Book of Songs, Chu Yuan's Li Sa, and Tang and Song poetry. I also studied English at Jiuquan Education College and International Trade at Beijing University of International Business and Economics, focusing on import and export business, foreign trade telegrams, trade negotiations, marketing, and business management. I spent 6 months reading through Mao Zedong's Selected Works Volumes 1 of 5 at the Party School, and also studied Popular Science Literature Volumes 1 of 4. My wide-ranging and colorful experiences, extensive learning, and social engagements did not lead me to fully grasp the essence of life. It was the opportunity of delving into the study of the Bible for a span of 4 years and continuous contemplation that truly brought me enlightenment. I first tackled the question of the origin of life. I had earnestly explored Darwin's On the Origin of Species, intending to use Darwin's theory of evolution to refute the theory of God creating humanity. However, the results of my investigation, comprising tens of thousands of staggering facts, led me to completely overturn Darwin's theory. I came to a profound realization that Darwin merely scratched the surface on the question of the origin of life and fundamentally failed to grasp the essence of life. Richard Dawkins' theory regarding the origin of life from water was pure nonsense. Fortunately, Darwin and Richard were individuals with scientific acumen and self-awareness. Darwin admitted that the initial forms of life may have been created by God, while Richard advised people to regard their theories as hypotheses or scientific fantasies. Unfortunately, most people mistake conjecture for certainty, using the ambiguous theories of Darwin and Richard to deny the indisputable fact of God creating life. In doing so, they close the door to wisdom, leaving generations to wander outside the treasury of true understanding. The treasury of wisdom refers to entering a higher level of thinking, which is the state of mind described by Buddha Shakyamuni as abiding nowhere and generating the mind. It is also the kind of thinking advocated by us communists as seeking truth from facts. Of course, many communists say one thing and do another, which is another matter. It is to enter the universe's way of thinking scientifically, devoutly, selflessly, and non-actionably, entering the way of thinking of Jesus, Buddha Shakyamuni, and Laozi, entering the thinking of the greatest creator, and in this way, to understand the universe, life, and the things that are invisible to the naked eye, inaudible to the ear, and imperceptible to the body, but still affect the material world. To validate that one has entered this advanced thinking state, there is a very obvious change that everyone can try. Our usual dreams are mainly in black and white, and the scenes, emotions, and people we encounter in dreams are closely related to our real life and the world. However, when we enter an advanced thinking state, our dreams are different from before. The majority of our dreams become colorful, and the people encountered in dreams are ones we have never thought of or seen before. The environments in dreams are unimaginable, some are horrifying, and some are incredibly beautiful. As our thinking delves deeper, the mysteries of the universe will unfold one by one before us, and the 36-dimensional spaces will appear clearly. We will discover that we possess many extraordinary abilities. Soaring through the clouds, walking on water, passing through walls, becoming invisible, flying, and more. Here, I raise the issue of time once again. We typically think that a matter of seconds is just a snap of the fingers, but within this mere instant, we can experience intricate events in our dreams and even enjoy a long passage of time. We transcend time that cannot be measured in space that is infinite. The original title of my book is Trip of Transcending Time and Space, and I hope everyone can grasp the mysteries within it. Well, that's the journey of my unconventional thinking. Whether you believe it or not, it's up to you to ponder. Unconventional thinking is the best way to explore the mysteries of the universe and find the true meaning of life. As long as we proceed step by step, we will eventually enter a vast world. At that time, we will be amazed to discover the essence of the universe and the mysteries of life. We will be excited about the beautiful celestial realm of the afterlife and will love life and humanity even more, cherishing the present life more than ever. The purpose of unconventional thinking is to explore the mysteries of the universe, the role and value of time and space. Let's now move on to the second chapter of Life Chanyuan, the Universe, Time and Space chapter, to explore its mysteries.
反常思维18条
18 Items of Unconventional Thinking. Xiefeng. October 8, 2005. Translation edited by Qinyo. There is no absolutely closed space. Time does not exist. Everyone is a cell of the greatest creator. Going straight forward, one will return to the origin. You can put on your shoes first and then your socks. Rotating 360 degrees, one cannot return to the origin. Stones can also cross rivers. Life is not life, but death. Death is not death, but life. Parallel lines can intersect. What the eyes see is not real. Human beings cannot manage themselves well. Man has no original sin, only primitivity. Consciousness determines everything. Paradise exists in every possible way. Truth and falsehood, good and evil, beauty and ugliness, love and hatred coexist with each other. There is no absolute truth, goodness, beauty, and love, nor absolute falsehood, evil, ugliness, and hatred. What the brain can imagine is real. The more you possess, the more you lose. People can live completely in consciousness. Entering Life Genuine without new content may disappoint visitors. Today, I don't feel like writing an article, so let's just piece something together and consider it plain water to drink.
两点之间直线最长，曲线最短。
Between 2 points, the straight line is the longest and the curved one is the shortest. Xiefeng, April 25, 2007. Translation edited by Qinyo. Between 2 points, the shortest distance is a straight line. This is common sense in mathematics, and I have no objection. I'm just thinking about it from another angle. I tried to connect the 2 points of Beijing and New York with a straight line, because the straight line between the 2 points is the shortest, but after tossing about for a long time, I found that the straight line between the 2 points is the longest. The principle is that the Earth is round, and there is no straight line connection between any 2 points. Once you want to connect with a straight line, the connection must go straight out along the tangent, and it is difficult to connect with another point. Only a curved connection represents the shortest distance. I took a Coca-Cola bottle and marked 2 points on its surface and tried to connect the 2 points with a straight line but failed. The result still proved that the straight line between the 2 points was the longest, and the curve was the shortest. As a result of various thinking and experiments, it is found that the conclusion that the straight line between 2 points is the shortest only holds true in two-dimensional space, and beyond the two-dimensional plane, this conclusion becomes invalid. In addition, this conclusion is valid in theory, but not in practice. That is to say, 2 points that are not in the same dimension cannot be connected by a straight line. The more you want to use a straight line to connect, the farther the distance will be. At the same time, what is correct in theory cannot be applied in practice. What will be the result of extending this discovery to other fields? In the field of thought, 2 points cannot be connected by a straight line. For example, the thoughts of Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, Muhammad, Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, Osho, Seth, etc., represent points that cannot be linearly linked. The shortest distance is a curved line. In the social field, such as the systems of the United States and China, there is no straight line between these 2 points. The shortest is only the curved one. In the field of belief, such as atheism and theism, evolution and creation, idealism and materialism cannot be connected in a straight line. In human culture, for example, the values of Eastern and Western cultures cannot be linearly connected. In terms of love, the more direct the connection, the shorter the lifespan. A winding path leads to a hidden spot. A meditation chamber lies deep within the flowering trees. The more curved, the more nerve-wracking, the tastier. In terms of happiness, the more you want to get happiness in a straight line, the less you can get happiness. Many people have walked for a lifetime and finally find that the more direct road is the farthest way from happiness, and it does not lead to any destination. In fact, the Chinese know the truth of the curve best. Bribery is not done directly to oneself, but through his wife, his sisters, or his wife's sisters. It is not necessarily the bribe being his money, but to provide convenience for profit. They do not go directly to the office to ask for help, but invite people to go to the hotel first to talk about it. Although they are anxious, they pretend to be okay. Strategies such as playing hard to get, relieving the state of Zhao by besieging the state of Wei, crossing the sea under camouflage, making a feint to the east and attacking in the west, advancing secretly by an unknown path, resurrecting a dead soul by borrowing a corpse, abusing the locust tree while pointing to the mulberry, stealing the beams and pillars and replacing them with rotten timbers, using seductive women to corrupt the enemy, sowing discord among the enemy, etc., all exemplify taking indirect paths to achieve one's goals. The more curved the road of life, the better, and the more direct, the worse. What's so good about being born without experiencing anything and going straight to the grave? Falling in love today, getting married tomorrow, having a baby the day after tomorrow, and dying the day after tomorrow's tomorrow, what good is there? Eat, go to work, sleep, eat again, go to work again, sleep again. What good is there? What's so good about staying the same? A great man once said, "While the prospects are bright, the road has twists and turns." Reversing of this sentence is a truth. The road has twists and turns, but the prospects are bright. At least it makes more sense. The same is true in the field of life. If a master were to reveal the mysteries of life directly, and we were to journey to the Elysium Islands continent tomorrow, firstly, we would be unable to reach them, and secondly, we would miss out on the rich and diverse experiences of life. If you are having fun, laughing, playing, laughing and joking, feeling, undergoing, and experiencing, it looks like a curve, not direct, but the actual situation is. The straight line between 2 points is the longest, and the curve is the shortest. I like unconventional thinking and regard the normal as abnormal, and the abnormal as normal. As a result, thinking can extend to infinitely strange and broad fields, and often have the feeling of, just as the weary traveler despairs of finding a road, lo, a village appears, and the shade of willows and riotous flowers beckon. Often think from a different perspective. Often look at things upside down. This enlivens your spirit. Hee hee.
两点之间直线最长曲线最短。
Between 2 points, the straight line is the longest and the curved one is the shortest. Xiefeng. April 25, 2007. Translation edited by Qinyo. Between 2 points, the shortest distance is a straight line. This is common sense in mathematics, and I have no objection. I'm just thinking about it from another angle. I tried to connect the 2 points of Beijing and New York with a straight line, because the straight line between the 2 points is the shortest, but after tossing about for a long time, I found that the straight line between the 2 points is the longest. The principle is that the Earth is round, and there is no straight line connection between any 2 points. Once you want to connect with a straight line, the connection must go straight out along the tangent, and it is difficult to connect with another point. Only a curved connection represents the shortest distance. I took a Coca-Cola bottle and marked 2 points on its surface and tried to connect the 2 points with a straight line but failed. The result still proved that the straight line between the 2 points was the longest, and the curve was the shortest. As a result of various thinking and experiments, it is found that the conclusion that the straight line between 2 points is the shortest only holds true in two-dimensional space, and beyond the two-dimensional plane, this conclusion becomes invalid. In addition, this conclusion is valid in theory, but not in practice. That is to say, 2 points that are not in the same dimension cannot be connected by a straight line. The more you want to use a straight line to connect, the farther the distance will be. At the same time, what is correct in theory cannot be applied in practice. What will be the result of extending this discovery to other fields? In the field of thought, 2 points cannot be connected by a straight line. For example, the thoughts of Jesus, Buddha, Laozi, Muhammad, Marx, Lenin, Mao Zedong, Osho, Seth, etc., represent points that cannot be linearly linked. The shortest distance is a curved line. In the social field, such as the systems of the United States and China, there is no straight line between these 2 points. The shortest is only the curved one. In the field of belief, such as atheism and theism, evolution and creation, idealism and materialism, cannot be connected in a straight line. In human culture, for example, the values of Eastern and Western cultures cannot be linearly connected. In terms of love, the more direct the connection, the shorter the lifespan. A winding path leads to a hidden spot. A meditation chamber lies deep within the flowering trees. The more curved, the more nerve-wracking, the tastier. In terms of happiness, the more you want to get happiness in a straight line, the less you can get happiness. Many people have walked for a lifetime and finally find that the more direct road is the farthest way from happiness, and it does not lead to any destination. In fact, the Chinese know the truth of the curve best. Bribery is not done directly to oneself, but through his wife, his sisters, or his wife's sisters. It is not necessarily the bribe being his money, but to provide convenience for profit. They do not go directly to the office to ask for help, but invite people to go to the hotel first to talk about it. Although they are anxious, they pretend to be okay. Strategies such as playing hard to get, relieving the state of Zhao by besieging the state of Wei, crossing the sea under camouflage, making a feint to the east and attacking in the west, advancing secretly by an unknown path, resurrecting a dead soul by borrowing a corpse, abusing the locust tree while pointing to the mulberry, stealing the beams and pillars and replacing them with rotten timbers, using seductive women to corrupt the enemy, sowing discord among the enemy, etc. all exemplify taking indirect paths to achieve one's goals. The more curved the road of life, the better, and the more direct, the worse. What's so good about being born without experiencing anything and going straight to the grave? Falling in love today, getting married tomorrow, having a baby the day after tomorrow, and dying the day after tomorrow's tomorrow, what good is there? Eat, go to work, sleep, eat again, go to work again, sleep again. What good is there? What's so good about staying the same? A great man once said, "While the prospects are bright, the road has twists and turns." Reversing of this sentence is a truth. The road has twists and turns, but the prospects are bright. At least it makes more sense. The same is true in the field of life. If a master were to reveal the mysteries of life directly, and we were to journey to the Elysium Islands continent tomorrow, firstly, we would be unable to reach them, and secondly, we would miss out on the rich and diverse experiences of life. If you are having fun, laughing, playing, laughing and joking, feeling, undergoing, and experiencing, it looks like a curve, not direct, but the actual situation is. The straight line between 2 points is the longest, and the curve is the shortest. I like unconventional thinking and regard the normal as abnormal, and the abnormal as normal. As a result, thinking can extend to infinitely strange and broad fields, and often have the feeling of, just as the weary traveler despairs of finding a road, lo, a village appears, and the shade of willows and riotous flowers beckon. Often think from a different perspective. Often look at things upside down. This enlivens your spirit. Hee hee.
如何先穿鞋子再穿袜子？
How to put on shoes before socks. Xiefeng. February 12th, 2022. Translation edited by Chinyo. Yesterday, a netizen asked me how to put on shoes before socks. Since I didn't have time to respond yesterday, I am writing this article to answer today. Putting on shoes before socks is the 5th item in my article, 18 Items of Unconventional Thinking, in the chapter on unconventional thinking. Attempting this reverse order of dressing using conventional logic might seem absurd, as it is exceedingly challenging from a traditional perspective and could be considered impossible. To tackle this unconventional concept, one must employ unconventional thinking. Once unconventional approaches are embraced, solutions become apparent. Renaming shoes and socks offers a simple workaround. Call shoes socks and socks shoes. This semantic switch allows for the unconventional act of putting on shoes before socks. In the thousand-year world, where I resided, footwear was singular in form, referred to interchangeably as either shoes or socks. If one desired to wear 2 pairs, layering was the solution. This allowed us to distinguish the inner layer as shoes and the outer layer as socks. Isn't this a clever way to don shoes before socks? Our preconceived notions often lead us to believe that shoes are sturdy and rigid, while socks are loose and soft. However, shoes can be made pliable and socks flexible. Consider the soft shoes provided by some hotels, easily accommodating a pair of supple socks. Must shoes be indivisible? Detachable shoe designs offer an alternative. Don the shoes first, then unzip the instep to open the shoe upper, allowing for sock insertion. Close the upper and zip up the zipper. Voila! Shoes before socks. Every phenomenon should be considered within a realm of possibility. 64 possibilities to be precise. Limiting ourselves to familiar knowledge and cognitive boundaries renders many problems unsolvable. For instance, must the China-US relationship solely vacillate between cooperation and confrontation? Surely, there exist 62 other potential approaches. Similarly, must human relationships be confined to just acquaintances and strangers, relatives and foes, or rich and poor? By embracing unconventional thinking, we unlock a myriad of solutions to seemingly insurmountable challenges. Must we adhere to the notion that human society's survival mode must either be capitalism or socialism? Is communism the only future for humanity? Many seemingly unsolvable or difficult problems can only be resolved or answered through unconventional thinking.